Hey there, everybody! Welcome, welcome. So it's day 5 of coding this plugin. We'll get it running finished eventually, and got some jobs on the to-do list. The first one is persistence. So this is persistence is where the plugin. Sorry, move the microphone. Persistence is where the plugin saves all of its details, and when you stop and restart the server, it will. Remember everything, because at the moment if you stop and restart the servers, the clock stays there, but it's not actually, it's just a bunch of blocks. It's disconnected from any logic. Hey there to K-Dog, Ayrtons, everybody else who is on the channel, welcome. So after persistence is sorted, the next thing we're going to look at is destroying. So when you destroy the C, create a clock by creating the sign. If you destroy that sign, then it should delete the clock as well and all the blocks, so we'll sort that out, and that's going to be a little bit more fun than you'd think. Group permissions. So the next one is we need to add support so that I can create a clock and I can say people in a particular group can edit this clock. Also, as in start it, stop it, reset it, and all the rest of it. And whether that's just me, whether that's a particular group of people. So we need to add some support for group permissions and so forth. Those are really the essential jobs, and then I also wanted to put something in just to make it redetect and re-establish itself with different colours. If while it was running you wanted to change the colours, you could do that. And at that point we're kind of in a position that we could do a test deployment. So if we get at least the first 3 done tonight, then we might go ahead and try deploying it on Down the Mineshaft and see how much it breaks. So, what are we going to start with? Persistence. So what happens with persistence? So there's a couple of things. One, before we start thinking about actually persisting anything, we need to have something to persist. Because at the moment, what happens here in the main is that, if I collapse these methods down so we don't get them in the way, when I'm going to get rid of some of these commented out things because they're just in the way, making it all look messier than it needs to. And we'll get rid of all the rubbish at the bottom of this method because I don't need it anymore. Right, so that's tidied this class up a little bit. So what happens at the moment is when we do an on-sign change, we are doing a we're just creating the clock. We're not recording it anywhere. We don't really know anything about this clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class which will store information about a clock. So I'm going to call it a clock data or something. Yeah, clock data. Will do. It's a rubbish name, but it'll do for what we're trying to do. So inside here, I want to know things like its location. I don't know why I've made that public. It should be private. I never make member variables anything other than maximum of protect, just because I don't like exposing the inner dirty washing of a class. So we've got location. I want to know that's the location of the sign. We can calculate everything else from there. I want to know the ID of the which was the second parameter. I need to know kind of clock it is. Now I don't want to have so I'm just going to put the string in there so that we can do that. Now really that should be an enumeration. That should be an enumeration. Can you get the clock shoot off fireworks? Probably actually. Why don't we take that as a stretch goal? I'm going to leave that. Should I make that enumeration? Is that going to be? I'm not sure. Let's keep it as a string. Okay, so location, ID, clock type. What other parameters do we get? Clock type, ID, and the permissions. So we also need to know what the permissions line was. So effectively, with those 3 bits of information on the clock, we can reset the clock once so the clock will then exist again. It'll be fun at least each full hour. Yeah, have a clock that sets off the fireworks every hour. I could see that getting boring. Well, was I on DTM earlier, Ayrtons? I was just checking something. Okay, so that's not everything that we need to know. We need to know a little bit more than that, because If it's time of day clock, I don't need to know anything else. If it's a... I don't need to know about the other blocks because they will still be in the world, so I can re-get those. That's fine. I need to know if it's a countdown clock, if it's running, and so is it running? That's a good generic thing to want to know. Is running. These are sort of... So these are more definition, and these are more state. And then I'm going to have the current... Now both of these clocks, let's just have a look at how the clocks actually work. So countdown clock had a get time to show, which calculated it. So I could have a last time to show and a start time. Stopwatch has a start time. So all they really need in both cases is a start time, and then it can all be calculated from there. So all I need in clock data then is a long, which is the start time. Hope you're not taking a look at yours and Haddock's new build. No, I wasn't. I got back to spawn, and that's about it. That'd be fine, Matt. Someone came up with a big clock in London that strikes a huge bell every year. Okay. So that's kind of a data definition, I think. We might need to come back and refine that, but I think that's enough for us to get started. Oh, what about the clock direction? We kind of need the clock direction as well. No, I can get that from the sign. So this location should be the location of the signpost, or the sign, or wall sign. And then I can retrieve that. When I load the stuff back in, I can retrieve it out, and we should be good. I don't want to save stuff that's potentially get out of sync. If it's in the world, then it's fine. The system will already persist that. What I want to do is persist the stuff that I'm adding on top of it. So, having created our data class, I pretty much need to be a little bit clever. What are we going to do here? So, when I create one of these clocks, I want to create a clock data. So, clock data. So I need set location. So at least want setters. Let's do the setters. Didn't know I was a programmer quick. So I used to be a programmer professionally for a long time before I stopped doing programming stuff. And this is I do odd jobs to sort of keep my hand in, but this seemed like I fancy playing with Minecraft plugin development, and I thought I'd just share it on the stream and publicly humiliate myself as always. Right, so that's done all the setters. Well, let's do the is running as well. While we're here, we think we need to worry about those, so. I always like NetBeans over Eclipse. The only reason I use, to be honest, I used to use NetBeans a lot. NetBeans 4, I think, was the last version I used, but I got on with Eclipse far better once I actually transitioned over to it. It's a major mind shift to get used to Eclipse. Once you got used to NetBeans, and it took me a while to get used to Eclipse, but I was in one of those, you know, when you're using something, and you sort of feel like you get frustrated with it because, you know, stuff happens, no program's perfect. And I just tried Eclipse, and I forced my way into learning Eclipse, and now I can't go back to NetBeans. And not only that, all of the build environment and everything, and all the examples for setting up bukkit programming are all done in Eclipse. So I've used Eclipse for quite a long time now. But yeah, I started out with NetBeans. Well, I didn't start out with NetBeans. I started out with something called Semantic Visual Cafe. And that was horrific. Absolutely horrific. Spent 17 weeks building a TS route and forgot I had third-party assets, so you can't upload it. Oh no. Right, clock data dot set location event dot get block get location. Boom. Right, so that's got the location of the sign. Set ID, and that is going to be clock ID. Yeah, that seems reasonable. Set permissions with clock perms. I think that one is. It is, and clock type. Right, so that's defined the clock data structure with the basics. Any news on the PC? I haven't had any news at all. Change the syntax highlighting for private variables. Oh, I have no idea, I must admit. Eclipse to be more responsive. Yeah, Eclipse is far faster. Not NetBeans is quite pretty, but Eclipse is much faster. Why no more train sim? Because I haven't got a PC that can run it, you lot of a Beauchamp. However, hopefully this week, I'm just waiting for it. It's PC, new PC is on order. Stonkingly good PC. Once the new PC arrives, then we should be back to doing some train sim. But this laptop that I'm using at the moment can't do it. So, doing something else until the new PC arrives. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it's not a thing at all, to be honest. If there's no news by the end of tomorrow, then that's starting to look less good. But I'm hoping that I'll get a shipping notification tomorrow, so that it'll be here Thursday. What PC is it? It's Skylake 6700K, 4 point something gigahertz with overclocking, 980 Ti graphics, 16 gig of DDR4, 3 gigahertz RAM, half a terabyte, sorry, of 32 gigabit per second SSD. It's pretty much a monster, to be honest. It really is. Anyway, right, clock data has been set up. Now, when I set a clock up, I'm going to come down here and do clock.initialize, clock.start. Now, what I also want to do is clock.set clock data, clock data. Now, that allows the clock to update its own data block. And I also want to store that data block somewhere. So let's come back up here. Do I need to store that block anywhere? Because I've got all of the clocks accessible. I don't need to store that clock somewhere else. Ha-ha! Now, the other thing I want to do is say set location, set ID. Right, I also want to, before I actually go any further, having picked up this clock ID, if underscore clocks dot contains key clock ID, then I'm going to do event dot set cancelled true and reject the creation of the sign, and then I'm going to tell the client something, and I can't remember how to do that. Hang on a minute. So over in here I can send a message to the client. There we go, send message. No, it's event.getPlayer.sendMessage chat color dot red, because you're being bad. That clock ID already exists. And that will then reject that, and I'll just return straight out of there. So, trying to recreate the same clock. So let me make a note of things to test next time we run it. Make sure that that doesn't work. You're getting a 32mm live steam model railway. Nice, Dan. Very nice. Adam R.R., 10 months since... You know what? Before I started writing this, it had probably been the best part of 3 or 4 years since I programmed Java. You never really forget. Adam, what is it going to do? It's a clock. So it draws a big clock in the world using blocks. And you can either have a stopwatch that counts up, a countdown that goes down, or you can have something which tells you what the time of day is in the Minecraft world. Right, so that does that. Am I ever actually storing this clock anywhere? Going to all this trouble to make it. I don't think we're actually storing it anywhere, which is silly. iClock, so clock equals new. Oh, clock stop put. We are storing it somewhere. Excellent. Good. Did I break the computer, Joint DK? No, the computer broke itself. It became unreliable. It's been dodgily flaky for quite a long time. It's the one that had the dodgy power supply, followed by the dodgy graphics card. And it got to the point when I last tried to use it that it wouldn't actually fire up OBS without crashing. So that's why we stopped. So, but yes, new machine will be here imminently. Really looking forward to it. It looks like a stormingly good machine. And we're back to doing some train sim. But until then, let's enjoy some programming. So, we have registered the clock with the main lookup map up here. So we now have a list of every clock that's been created. We've checked to make sure that we're not making 2 clocks with the same ID. And we've aborted that. That's good. And we're trying to set the clock data, but that's not implemented. So iClock needs to have a set clock data. Like that, and then each of the subclasses or the implementers also needs to have a doobry thingy, an implementation of that method. So time of day clock. Have I got an abstract clock? I do. Superb. So I can do it in the abstract method and save myself some effort, because this is going to be the setting of the clock. Getting access to the story of it is the same for everything, so why do it over and over again? You know me by now, a bit lazy. Void set clock data, clock data, clock data, clock data equals clock data. There you go. Right, that's implemented all of that. And all the errors have gone away. That's good. Now what it means is that in countdown clock, when I start, I want to say clock data dot set is running true. Clock data dot set start time. If I set it to false, clock data dot set is running false. Anything that updates start time, I need to tell the data block, otherwise it won't get reflected. This doesn't update that, doesn't update that, that's okay. And then in here, right, okay, that's that one done. Now I need to do the same in stopwatch clock. So what this is doing at the moment is actually giving us some data to save and restore, or to save at this particular moment. So we're creating clocks, but we're never actually getting the data in some form that we can persist it. So this is structuring that, or creating a structured block of that data for us. No. What am I doing? Right, that's that done. They don't do anything, they don't do anything, and these just need to... Right, that's that one done. Okay, so that's that. And time of day is the last one. Right, that's that one done. Good. So, we now have a clock data created, managed, so it's always accurate. Now we can start looking at persisting it. So in main, when we go to on disable, we need to do a save config. When we go to do, so save config is actually a function that's created or provided by the Java, the plugin API, and then in on enable, I need to do a reload config. So that loads the data in or persists it out, and then that then puts it into an intermediate structure that's inside the bukkit API that I can then read and write to. So essentially, when I reload, trying to work out here what I need to do. I think what we'll do is we'll provide, I think, do the clocks have access to the plugin? They've got access to the plugin only as a plugin. What is the underscore before a variable indicator in my coding standard? Private internal private variable. Anything like a class variable, I always put an underscore in front of. Not just private, actually, for anything in anything for internal access inside the class, because then it separates it from any kind of parameter or anything like that. And I never make a class attribute public. It just makes me slightly sick. I want to make everything on setters and getters. So when we shut the server down, let me just run the server up. I think when you type stop, it does an on disable. Although that's not really the point, is it? So if I do stop, yeah, it does do an on disable. So on disable is our last opportunity to make sure we're up to date, but we need to have done that beforehand, because if the server crashes, we'll lose anything otherwise. Which means that the first thing I want to do is, having created this clock data in there, is then to persist it. So what I need to do then is create something which will, let's have a function which will update. So I'll make a private function which, oh hello, which will, when will Eurofishing be released on Xbox One? I can't give you the exact date, Brownie. I don't think it's been announced. I think it's quite soon. It's if you go onto the Xbox store, you can see it's already there on the Xbox One store. I'm looking forward to it coming out myself, because I'm going to pick up a copy. Village Scout, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. Right. Oh, that's better. So what I want here is to say, I don't want to call it save config. This is, I want to almost bundle and unbundle. Let's call it bundle config. And we'll create a pair class called unbundle config. And the idea of this is to go from my function, or my data store, which is this underscore clocks thing at the top, into the plugins one, which is a map. Stubby, could I do a fishing stream sometime? Absolutely. Particularly once the Xbox release comes out, I plan on doing a stream with it. But certainly when I get the new machine, I shall definitely do a fishing stream. It's good fun. Very good fun. So, we're going to call bundle config when we want to bundle it up. So, the process for doing that is... I'm just looking at my notes to remind myself how I do it. So we do this.getConfig .set, and then inside there we can set stuff. Which can be, so it's a name followed by a list or a string. Let's not get config. So we're going to set clock. Oops. Dot. Inside here, I need to do a for clock. Oops. String clock ID in clocks dot key set. Clock ID. The value is then going to be interesting. How am I going to encode that? For now, let's just put Wibble. We'll come back to that in a minute. So that's going to loop through every clock and persist all of the IDs and the word Wibble. There you go. Awesome. The partner function is going to look through the right. Okay, so it's this dot get config dot get configuration section clock. And that returns a, funnily enough, configuration section. And I need to fix the wibble bit. We'll come back to unwibble the bundler in a minute. And then we need to, if set string clock list as clocks dot get keys false. So that will get all of the keys, which are all of these clock IDs. And I then want to iterate through each of those. Create them. So at this point the wibble will be stored in so this dot get config dot get string. Could do it as a string list. Ooh, you can do a map. Interesting. What's a map list? Oh, it's a list of maps. Can't do just a map though. I'm tempted to do a string list and just convert the bits back that I want. That way I don't have to save lots of different parameters out. So let's do a get string list clock ID. Is that right? No, I need to put clocks dot plus clock ID, and that returns me an array list string clock data into there. So, having done that, clock data is now going to have a whole bunch of wibble in it because it's not done correctly here. Oh, okay. That needs to be pushed into a new array. Excellent. A to A pilot. What am I doing? I'm making a Minecraft plugin. Well, I'm continuing making a Minecraft plugin. So this now needs to give me a list. Now, would it be nice if clock data could handle that for me? Which is why I didn't do the gets, because I suspected I would want to be able to do this kind of thing. So I want to actually return a list of string, which is get bundle data. So array list string return data set new I can't remember if a list is. It's difficult. This is where I'm used to Java. Sorry, C#. Does that work? No, it has to be an array list. Does that work? No. Open declaration. No, that's not what I wanted. Ah, it's a collection. I think it needs to be an array list anyway, actually, thinking about it. Right, that's upset because I'm not returning anything, so let's return what we found. And then data set dot add underscore location. Oh, hang on. Oh, that's not going to work. Dot get x dot to string. That converts it to a string. Boom! There you go. Right, let's add Y and Z. Hey, Flying Scotsman. Then we've got ID, clock type, and permissions. ID. Clock type. Permissions. That's all of those. And then we have is running and start time. London Underground Class 20 version. The Just Trains version. Nice. So that then, if I return that, will give me a list which I can drop into here. So in here, I do clocks dot get clock ID dot get to bundle. No, get bun. What did I call it? Just wrote the function. Get bundle data. Oh, got clock data dot get bundle data. Because at the moment the clock won't let me get the so abstract clock needs a getter for that value as well. And it needs to be defined in iClock. That's good, and that's now settled down. Right, that now handles writing the data out. We're bundling it up correctly. And then in here, what I want to do is I need to create a clock. So, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the functionality here that creates clock. So essentially what happens is, at this point onwards, this is quite neat. This is a neat function of the interface. If I just get rid of that, that's better. I can see a bit more about what's going on now. So if I take this stuff and say, right, actually, I want to do this in multiple places, but rather than copy paste all this code, which would be really hideous, and I've done some hideous things this stream, I need to do refactor, and I can extract a method, which will then say, well, these are all the parameters that I need to do that, and I can refine it later on, but it's going to be create clock, and it will be a private method, and all is good. So we press OK, it changes all that code into a create clock and creates me a create clock. So I can now call that from elsewhere. Now, event is used here to do these things. See, now that's interesting because I need to get access to the world. What else do I need event for? Block location, so I need to pass the location in. We already figured that out. So instead of that one, we're just going to get the location. And then this is location.getX, location.getY, and location.getZ. Really? Why are they different parameters? Never mind, we'll look at that in a minute. This is all passing the world and all sorts of other things in. Now when we call it, I want to pass in event.get block.get location.getX, event.get block.get location.get no. Just event.get location would do actually. So because set bottom left is looking for ints at the moment, and actually locations are stored as double for some reason. So that cures that, but now the clocks are all broken. Where is the Is this the last coding stream for the return of TS, Lion Scotsman? I doubt it. It's highly unlikely. I mean, I didn't get a delivery note today, which means that it almost certainly won't come tomorrow, which means that there won't be a TS stream tomorrow. If I get a delivery note tomorrow, then it's likely it'll come on Thursday. So something along those lines is where we're at. So yeah, there's highly unlikely to be a train sim stream tomorrow. And I will, as soon as I get a note saying it's been shipped, then I will give you a shout and on Facebook and let you all know. Right. Set bottom left is the function that was the problem, and that's actually in the abstract. That's the problem. So I'm storing these as there needs to be a double. I'm kind of hoping this still works this way, and it's just a data type that's different rather than the meaning of the meaning of the data type. Syntax versus semantics. Set bottom left. Oh, time up data. That's wrong as well. Time renderer. Render base. So basically, in refactoring that other code, the data types had to change because the location coordinate I'm getting is of a different type. So I'm just going through and fixing that. Those two. I think most of that should have gone now. That is because of that. Let's clear those ones. These are all render digit, which is in the digit renderer. You hear lots of concentration, yeah. Right, that puts that in there. Render 0. Feels like these functions could all be squashed into one and having a big array with all a three-dimensional array with these bits in them, but that's an improvement for a future time. So coordinates are now all being converted to the correct format. So that's all good, and we're all back to compiling again, which is pretty nice. Which means you've probably forgotten something, but that's fine. So back in main, we're still passing this event in. We need to get shot of event. So one problem is that they need to know the world. Now what I want to know is, can I determine the world based on its name? I can. Which means that I need to pass in the world name. And then world equals bukkit.get world name. Boom! And then add the import for that. And then pass world into there. That's got rid of that usage of event. Seems like actually create clock just needs to have a clock data passed to it, doesn't it, really? Rather than all of this fancy stuff. Before we fix the rest up, I need to put a world name in here. Right, let's put that in there. I don't know why I keep doing that. Right. Now, I'll come and refactor that to clean that up interface up in a minute. So that's putting world in, creating the clock data. So if I now get rid of event, what am I missing? What breaketh? So that's the world. We know what to get for the world. Yeah, I don't use bulk search and replace. That's probably winding some of you up, but sorry about that. World, 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 and world. So what's left now is the coordinates. Now event.getBlock.getX actually should be location.getX. Location to get Y. You drove a diesel loco yesterday, Dan Leeds. Excellent. Which one? There we go. That's some errors got rid of. The whole reason for doing this, by the way, is it means that I can use this exact same method to reinstantiate the clocks when the server reloads. It's always good to use the same code multiple times, because then once you've tested it and know that it works, you don't have to retest it again. If it works once in one instance, it'll work again. This is a bit incredibly tedious, but we're nearly there. Right, that's those gone. And here I'm doing an event.getBlock.getStatus, so that's to find out what direction it's facing. So I do need to know that in the clock data. Driver for a fiver. Where was that at, Dan? I'll tidy up the parameters in a minute, a slightly bizarre order. So this is to get which direction it's facing. That's Paula Mutto HD, thank you for the follow, much appreciated. The Middleton Railway, excellent. That sounds like you had a good time. So I need to pass in the facing direction in there as well. So we've got the, I'm not passing in event anymore, and I do want to pass in event.getWorld. No. .get player.getWorld. Right. So that passes in the world. Feel all sorts of super powerful when you say we're passing the world into this function. I'm going to put facing last. Right, so what are you upset about? Get world, oh, .get name. Right, so now create clock is working and everything is being set up correctly and being stored correctly. So now if I do exactly the same, so what I do need to remember is that clock data now needs to have the facing stuff on it as well. And then down here, we need to put the world name, and let's put the facing in there. Right. So we've got everything in there. Now when we come back to our bundle, so bundle config is fine. That's going to work. Unbundle config is going to pull back this array list, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to create clock data structure. So call that a raw clock data, and then we call this a clock data is new clock data passing in raw clock data. So that'll pass in the list. So if I create a constructor that takes an array list, and we'll also create a default constructor so that there's no problems there. Now if I get that, I now want to retrieve the bits out, parse them, and put them in the right holes, which is, for example, let's call that data set so it maintains parity with the other one. So dataset.get 0, that's the world name. I should do a check here first to make sure it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 long. If dataset dot size not equal 10, then return throw new exception invalid data set. Right. I don't think, what is this going to tell me? Throws exception. You don't need a return if you throw an exception, you dipstick. Right, so that's world name. The next one is the facing one. So facing is a structure, which means we've got to do enum.value of, and then it will be block face dot class, I think. What's it type of? I think I'm thinking C# here again. And the value is going to be data set.get 1. Nope. What class is little Ned? 02, if I remember rightly. You know, it was an 040. String. Underscore dataset can't be resolved quite realistically. Right, so that should enumerate back. So we got a string that says west, it should become the block face enumeration of west. So data sets 2 and 3 and 4 are the coordinates. So location new location, and it's going to be data set.get 2. I'll do the data parsing in a minute. Data set.get 4. Now that won't work because they're the wrong type. Cass373, thank you for the follow. Double dot parse double. There you go. No, you don't like that. What don't you like? Oh, because a location needs to include the world name, which we know. Bukkit.getWorld world name. Yay! Okay, that's those ones done. ID is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clock type is 6. Does the follow announcements coming through really loud, are they? Don't know why. Haven't set them up any louder than normal. In fact, if anything, they're set quite quiet. Never mind. Permissions is data set.get 7. Is running is a boolean. Parse boolean. Data set.get 8. And start time, the long. Data set.get 9. That whole lot needs wrapping to protect it from crashing. Right, that should protect it from any kind of badness that came in. You think I'm relatively quiet? Well, according to the green bars, if I just bring up, this is going to freak it out a bit, but if I bring up this, you can see that it's actually peeking out the bars here at all. I'm hitting the end stops quite a lot when I'm speaking, so I'm not quite sure why it's quiet for you. Clearly I don't quite understand this stuff as well as I should. Okay, so we can now create a clock data and it will reparse all the data back in. Change to clock data, there you go. So what I need to do, and I figured I might need to do this previously, I need to handle that exception. Which is going to be getlogger dot severe and once you get a failure to log in the load the clock data, we're just going to stop and we're not going to do anything else. Why are you referring to my voice volume? Yeah, that's what the left-hand one is, yeah. Okay. So if the clock data worked, we need to create a clock. Now our create clock function takes all of this stuff, and what I actually want to do is make it take a clock data. So in here I'm going to create a clock data, new clock data dot set clock type clock data dot set world name all of that rubbish. clock data.set location is event.get block.get location. Clock data.set clock ID is clock ID. Sorry, this is a bit of a boring bit in what we're doing, but I'm not too far off done now, so we have to see it, test it, and then fix it, because it probably needs fixing. Set clock, nope, set permissions, clock perms, set facing. Right, now when we create a clock, we can just pass in clock data, and then here we have clock data, and that's so I need to add all the getters in now. Clock data dot get world name, clock data dot get clock type, put the IDs in there. Don't need to create that anymore because we're doing it. That's clock data dot get location. We're creating code with errors now because we haven't actually defined all the getters inside clock data. That'll come in a minute. Done those. Everything else is okay. It does a set clock data to put it into its new clock. So all I need to do now, that's clock data.get facing. Which goes in there. Right, let's add all the getters into the clock data. Did we get everything? The moment we're not taking into account the start time when it's running. Are they in here? Yeah, they're in there, and they're in there. But I don't need them to establish the clock. I do need them to establish the clock, so I do need getters for them. Of course I need to use them to establish the clock. Don't be silly. Right. Official \M. Thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. Don't need that import. So now, having implemented all the getters, these are all working. So if we go back to minimize that, get rid of it. We don't need that. We don't need that anymore. Oh, that. Alright, so if we come back to here, having done that, I can now do create clock data. Boom. That will create the clock and register itself back into the hash map when it comes in. So that should persist the data out and then pull it back What I'm not doing is I'm not calling these at the moment. So when I do a reload config, I need to do an unbundle config, which will then, so reload config pulls it into the this.get config essentially. Unbundle then pushes it back into my clock structure, which is good. And then I need to, before I do a save config, I need to do a bundle config. Oops, hello. Like that. So that will then bundle everything up and save it. Now the other thing that I want to do is make it to where when I create one, I also do a bundle config and a save config. And then whenever I make a change to it, which happens in on command, sorry, in the clock commands, they're all going to do their thing, but they're going to return separately. So if we look at stopwatch command, if we start the stopwatch, if I bundle the config and save config, then it will record the fact that as soon as I start it, it will save a config file update out. Stop, I want to do the same thing. Reset, I want to do the same thing. Lap, I want to do the same thing. Clear, same thing. Countdown. Let's start. Let's stop. Set. It's clear. Right, so whenever I do anything with those, they'll also do an update, which means I don't need to wait for the server to stop for it to save its config file out, which is going to be handy, I think. Okay, kind of interested to see what this will do now, so let's see what if it compiles. Should do, because to be honest, if you're not getting any red badness down here, tell you, before we do that, let's just clear all this yellow stuff off. Basically, we've got warnings coming up that are style warnings essentially. They just are not ideal. We've got junk in the files, so just get rid of all the junk out of the files. Things like imports that you're not using, variables that you're not using, all this stuff really. We're not using running in the countdown clock. Really? We're not using running? Excellent. And digit renderer. In some cases there are actually, so we're not using the plugin, but I'm going to leave it there because it's part of that interface. Why is it part of that interface? So if I'm not using it, why am I passing it in? Gone. Toasty. History. That's going to break something else, but where's my warning now? Ah, there's my warning. Got another one of them we don't need. Good, let's clean that up. Let's get back to the red one here because I no longer need to pass that in. While we're here, let's clean it up. I'm deleting these because it told me we're not using them, so I've obviously started going down one way with the code and then ended up going a different way. Gone toast history, absolutely. Time of day clock. Got lots more stuff in here that's junk. Running, clock ID, running. Passing a clock ID into here we don't need. Clock ID and running. That's broken main because I don't need the clock ID in there. Right, stopwatch clock. Clean up your imports. And again, clock ID. Is that it? Yep. Main again needs to get rid of that. Thin the interface down to what's actually needed. And then trim out the imports and whatever other ruggish there is. Thank you for the follow. This is Superman. Hello, Superman. It's a privilege to have Superman following the channel. Just want to say. Right, I'm getting the player here. I don't need to. We'll stop doing that. Time updater is now busted. Why are you busted? Because I don't need to pass the world in. And that means that plugin and world are redundant. Really? Because that probably should have an underscore on it. That's better. Now you can do that. Plugin we can get rid of. That we can get rid of. Get rid of some unnecessary imports. Good, we've completely bust everything. Excellent, that's what I was hoping we would do. Because I don't need to pass the plugin there anymore. Don't need to pass the plugin there anymore. And I don't need to pass the plugin in either of these. So not only now have we got rid of all the errors, we've got rid of all the warnings as well. Never have warnings. Run as Maven install. Don't give me that compilation failure nonsense. Good, build success. Run the server. Now in plugins, ooh, we exploded. So in unbundle config, main.java line 55, we exploded. Now, what didn't I take into account? Probably something to do with the fact that nothing exists in the config at the moment. And I've not taken into account that if nothing exists, I probably need to think about that. So, unbundle config, line 55 is that one, so clocks.getKey. So, I didn't check to see if clocks was null. So, if clocks is null, I just need to check if not equals null, actually. No, do fail fast. That way I don't get the ever descending curly brackets everywhere. Right. Good. Let's rebuild that. I really don't know why that follow sound is going quite so loud. It's very bizarre. I'm going to turn the system volume right down. Someone do a spam follow and let's see what that sounds like so I can see what the volume controls are actually doing. Don't like the idea of everyone being deafened. Good, that built. Let's stop that server. Ah, now when we did a stop this time, it's persisted something. How does that sound? Is that better? I mean, it's a third of the way up the volume list. Or volume bar. Everyone likes that better. Good. Right. We'll leave it like that. Fine. Good, good. Don't like the idea of anyone getting deafened. Right, now what I'm going to do is delete DTM clock because we want to repeat the same test. We don't want to run a different test. So now I'm going to run it, copy the new plugin over, and we'll see what that one does. Now a good first test is it comes up without crashing. Right, so the clocks are now there. So if I now connect to the server, and change it to daytime. Right, big explosions. I was testing TNT earlier on today. I'll come over with nothing else. Oh, I hate it when I press the wrong button. Stop pressing the wrong button! Right, so clock, Todd. No, I need some stuff behind it. Twit. What was the error there out of interest? Is it because the blocks are all wrong? I think it's because there's nothing there. Bundle config main.java line 49 blew up. So let's have a quick look at bundle config in main.java line 49. Caused by cannot set to an empty path. That's cannot set. Get logger .info saving or bundling clock. I think you could just affect a Scottish accent for amusement. I'd just offend so many people if I did that. Clocks.get clock ID. .get clock data. .get bundle data. Let's have a look at get. Actually, so it's an iClock. Clocks.get clock ID and clock data equal clock data clock dot get clock data. I'm basically separating that large compound out into one thing, into lots of different things. Looks like Matt isn't having much luck, but nor have I today. I'm having no more luck at anything else. F119 Kev, how you're slow at this Matt. Oh, I haven't programmed in a long time. You're just going to have to bear with me. And then bundle data is an array list of string bundle data clock data dot get bundle data. Right, and what I want to do then is get logger.info. Oops, stop pressing F1. Right, spamming the log file a little bit because I need to know exactly which one is going wrong. Have I got the new PC? No, not yet. Coming hopefully sometime this week. It's all optimised if you get problems, lag problems. What does optimize do? Is that a server mod or a Forge mod or something? I've heard of Optifine. I had the Optifine shader mod installed. Right. I don't anymore because it just keeps crashing the NVIDIA drivers. Hey there, Chris. Welcome. Whoa, what happened? What on earth happened there? Right, let's do clock. Todd, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Interesting. So let's go and have a look at plugins, DTM clock, and clock config. See what we ended up with. Clock name is 123. Its world name is world. It's facing west. It's at these coordinates. Permissions 123. It's a TOD clock. 123 again. True. Okay, name and permissions are in there. True is whether it's running, and that's the start time. Didn't actually work. Oh, it's because I've set everything to air. Oh, of course. There's a seed here, isn't there? So it's setting the clock digits to seed. Oh my word. Well, we can change this by putting a green one, a pink one, and a yellow one. And then in theory, if I disconnect from there and stop, and then I restart the server, use the other one so I don't copy a new plugin in. Once that's done its wee thing. Good. And then we will connect. Interesting. Alright, let's blast that. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to stop the server and I'm going to delete that. Otherwise it might be trying to run something else. So I'm just going to keep the config clean, restart the server. It's clearly not actually starting it properly. It's probably initializing it but not running it, so I'll need to deal with that in a minute. What I'm not doing on restart actually is setting up the is running and so forth, so I'll do that. That I'll need to do. A TOD clock should work. Clock, TOD, FFF, GGG. Right, that gives me a clock. And if I open the config file, there's my FFF, GGG time of day clock. So now if I disconnect, stop, check that again, good, and then run the server up. Right. Is the clock working? It's not. Okay. So what we're not doing is doing the is running stuff. So let's have a quick look at that. So when we come in, actually I'm just going to do that. Actually, that's not a bad line of log to have. When we come in and we create a clock, and I go into it, this only this does do a clock.start. Let's have a look at that. But what I'm not doing is setting the running and all of that nonsense. Does that mean you can leave it on its TOD and still run? How do you mean, Chris? Don't know quite what you mean that. So clock data has got is running and start time. When I create the clock from being warmed up, essentially, because you've got effectively the concept of freezing and warming, when I warm the clock up, I'm not passing is running into there. So clock data dot set is running to false, and clock data dot set start time 0. That warms that sets everything up correctly. I need to do clock. Does clock.start just start by looking at the time of day clock? Start will do that. I actually need a resume, which essentially does start time is clock data. Ooh, don't want to do that. Dot get start time, and is running is clock data dot get is running. Oh, I can't spell anything today. That's just running, isn't it? And then start time updater. If running, then start time updater. Leave it on its own while commenting, etc. Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, the clock should just keep working. Haddock, yes, thanks for getting Jerick set up. Much appreciated. He and his daughter are having a great time on there now. It's not running either. Well, what is it then? Oh, I'm not recording running in here, so I don't care. In which case, it's just that then in this one. So that means I do a resume, which means under here, I need to do resume. iClock needs a resume. Also, did I talk to people today? No, sorry. Today, tomorrow, I've got more meetings, but I'm going to get it sorted in... I'll see if I can get it sorted tomorrow morning, but I've got another presentation to give tomorrow afternoon, so... It's all go, go, go at the moment. It's a pain. Right, so stopwatch clock. When I set up a stopwatch clock, I need to have a resume function as well. Yeah, ask me tomorrow, Haddock, about how I got on, and I'll give you an update. I need to warm up the start time again from clock data.get start time. This has a running. You bought American Truck Sim yesterday, did you, Chris? Excellent. Reducing pressure on you should be your priority. Yeah. And if running, then I need to start time updater. Right, so that does the resume for stopwatch clock, and then countdown clock needs to do pretty much the same actually. Let's start with copying it and then see what doesn't look right. Again, we don't have a running, it seems. That does seem really weird that we don't have a running on a clock. Never mind. Right, so start time, and then we do a start time updater. So now we're doing a resume when we bring the clock in. We start off with them set to defaults. And when we bring them in from the cold and warm them up, they'll have whatever value came in. So it should work. Create a new one, it'll do that. So let me do check unbundle. Actually, let's put it in here and put get logger.info creating clock data.get ID. $11.99, not bad. I got it for Cameron, but I haven't bought a copy myself yet. I've been busy playing Subnautica. That game is way too addictive. Right, so this is a clock that should exist in the world and should be running. Let's see what happens. Because this should say it's creating a clock when it initializes it down here. Failed to reload clock info, plugin stopped. Well, that would be a bad sign then. Why did you do that? That means this went on. What I didn't do is get logger.severe exception e.get message and get logger. Oh, no, that's a bit harder to do. Ah, what are you doing? Stop trying to be helpful, IDE. Right, let's run that. Well, there's 15 people on the main server at the moment. 14 people on the main server at the moment. If you like Minecraft, go to play.downthemineshaft.tv with your Minecraft client. Invalid dataset. That is the number of elements in the array. Have I miscounted? Have I miscounted? I added one to it, didn't I? Not equal 10. 0 to 9. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9, therefore the dataset size is 10. Try that. Let's get it to tell us what's wrong. C. Rogers, more nest and loft scenarios. Superb. Right, let's run that. Zero elements found, but I can see them in the config file. You're lying to me. So unbundle is horribly broken, is what we're saying here. So let's get logger.get.info unbundling clock ID. Oh no, I did not do that. I get clock, and then I get clocks. Twit. Twit. When I get the new PC, will I be doing a video unboxing? I certainly will. Unboxing and setting up, and I'm going to milk it for all it's worth, my friend. I'm going to milk it for all it's worth. Right, let's try that. It might have a bit more of a chance to work. Webcam is starting to lag behind my voice, is it? Oh. I'm not sure what to do about that, to be honest. It's all set up properly. Stop being twitchy, Twitch. If necessary, I'll just stop and restart the stream in a minute. Right, creating clock FFF. So it thinks it's created a clock. Has it created a clock? Oh, yes! Maybe you refresh it. Oh, I could do that. Just switch it off and on again. Hang on. Is that any better? Right, so the time of day clock. Get out of my way. That's it. You better run. You better run, boy! Right. So, that is the that clock. So let's do what we got there. Yellow, pink, green. Let's do pink, yellow, green, and we'll put a clock on here, which is a clock countdown. No, let's do a stopwatch. Stopwatch, and we'll call it SW1. Don't care about that right now. Exploded. What did I break now? Null pointer exception in stopwatch clock dot initialize stopwatch clock line 22. Dot set clock data. Dot set is running. So that means clock data hasn't been set at the point I do initialize. Ooh. So in here, when I create clock, I'm coming all the way down here. I'm doing set clock data after I do initialize. I think actually I'm going to do that so that it can't be done in the wrong order. Which means that iClock needs to pass in the clock data. Time of day clock, is that in the abstract? Yes, the abstract. So I'm going to get rid of the setter. That's a shame, it has to be done in all of these, but never mind. Can't be helped. Clock data, clock data. Clock data, clock data, and then in here, clock data, data. That way it's all done in the right, just in time, and I can control that time, and I don't have to rely on people using the API correctly. Bluetooth, vibrations and audio intend to... Oh, send us a link to that, Dan. That sounds really interesting. I'll have a look, Chris. Why are you still upset? Must implement set clock data. I need to get rid of that for my clock because I don't want a set clock data function. Abstract clock data doesn't, they don't. Right. Run as, go. We built, we's built, so we stop. No change to the clock config because that one didn't actually add correctly. So it's created the FFF clock, which is good. Yep, that clock is working fine. Time set day. Let's jump back to 7 o'clock. Superb. Superb! Clock. Stopwatch. SW1. 1, 2, 3. But no clock. SW1, it's a stopwatch. So it all set up correctly. Didn't actually do anything though. Interesting. So let's go here and do yellow, pink, that, and do a countdown. CD1, 1, 2, 3. Ah, that one's created. Okay. So if I do clock, set, countdown, CD1 to 0400, clock, help, clock, countdown, set, CD1 0400, let's set that correctly. Clock, and let's just try shutting the server down and see if that comes back up as 0400. We'll come back and find out what stopwatch didn't work in a minute. Let's just try this one first. Time of day clock is still working nicely, so that's good. Can you get such a thing as a Bluetooth game controller for tablets? You absolutely can. Look up the Moga Pro. M-O-G-A Pro. That's the one that I use. It looks and works almost exactly like an Xbox controller, except it's Bluetooth wireless, and works brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. Let's just expand that out, and CD1 is now in there as well as SW1 and FUF. Excellent. So, rerun the server, make sure it recreates all the clocks, and then we'll go and have a look and see what works and what does not. Well, it created 3 clocks, and CD1 came up time up. That suggests it hasn't reset the time correctly. I bet when I go into there it says something really random. Yep. Oh, okay. Alright, so the fact that it's there, now hopefully I should be able to clock, count, down, set, I can't remember what the command is now. / clock, countdown, set CD120400. Yeah, so it is resetting the clock correctly, it's just not coming in correctly. CompuFreak, when am I driving trains again in Train Sim? Very soon. My new computer, my brand spanking new machine, is coming this week. And as soon as it arrives, I will be streaming it. So, yes. The machine I've got, or I was using, won't do the job, so that's why I'm not streaming it, because you would not enjoy watching it if I ran it on this computer, trust me. Trust me. Link to chair. Let's have a quick look at this chair, shall we? Oh, very nice. Very nice indeed. That looks, don't know about gaming chair, I think I could fall asleep in that. Right. So, what's going on with this clock then? So when what did we save? So we put something in here. What if I change that to 01? I think that this countdown timer has an extra parameter, doesn't it? A set time. Yep. So, I need to add that into clock data. Public long get set time set time. Nice. And then bundle and unbundle. And these need to get set up. So set time long dot pause long data set dot get 10, and this needs to be 11. The bottom one then needs to be data set dot add set time. Dr. Anthony and Goodness, this is a Minecraft plugin that adds a giant clock into the world, or countdown timer, or a stopwatch, or that sort of thing. I'm doing a sort of a boring bit at the moment to persist all of the clock information out so that when you restart the server it comes back in again. So we've kind of done lots of the fun stuff, now we're into the sort of the boring stuff really. There you go. Yeah, look at me selling the stream like that. Dr. Anthony, what's with the no Tom till further notice? Do you mean no Train Sim Live till further notice? Because I don't have a computer that can run the game. I've got one on order. As soon as it comes, which I'm hoping to be in the next couple of days, then rest assured Train Sim Live will be back in force. Right, so that gets me the set time. Does countdown clock need to do anything else with the set time? It does, I think. So when we initialize, yes, I need to set the set time in clock data. That should do it. Rebuild. Good bank holiday. It was very good. relaxing at my parents'. I didn't get up until like up past 11. It was ridiculous. Ah, now hang on. I've just changed the format of the clock, so I need to delete that. Otherwise it's going to go horribly wrong. Yeah, we spent some of the weekend playing trains on the one-house model railway. Didn't stream any of it because it wasn't really organised enough, and I hadn't got my laptop set up. It's actually a pain in the neck setting the laptop up for the streaming. So unless we sort of plan it in advance and we're going to stream run for a couple of 3 hours, the goal over the weekend was to get the VPN server on the network fixed, upgraded to the latest version, and we did that. That was the primary goal. And then we sat playing trains for an hour or so afterwards, because you know. Trains. Right. So that's saying 0100 because it no longer knows this clock exists. So I'll get rid of that and come over here. It no longer knows the TOD clock exists either. So that shouldn't be doing anything. No, so I'm going to, just to outline the fact that those clocks don't exist. So over here, yellow, pink, green, clock, countdown, CD1, let's call it CDA, just to be different, because I'm bored of typing CD1. Put that in there. Clock, the countdown is in there. Now we need to initialize that to something sensible, don't we? Clearly it's rubbish at the moment. Clock, countdown, set CD1 to 0300. It's not CD1, you twit, it's CDA. There you go, and that's set to 0300. Now, what we should find is in the plugins. We've now got this value at the bottom, which is the number. Has anyone donated to the tip jar? Yeah, there's been 2 or 3 actually so far. Been very pleased with that actually. Very pleased. Now the other thing is at the moment the countdown is set to false. It should be that if I say countdown clock, countdown start CDA, that starts going down. And that now says true, because it's running. And if I stop CDA, it's now set to false. So the persistence is working really well, actually. The numbers remind you of a score on the 2600. I know. Ping pong is possibly the next game to write for Minecraft. Can you imagine the blocks, and then you'd use some kind of strange combination of the up 2 buttons to move the thing up and down? Oh dear, let's finish one project at a time, shall we? Right, so that is persisting correctly. The thing now is see if it comes back. So it says 0250. Let's disconnect, stop. Whoops, type it in correctly, it'll work better. And go back and run copy, because we don't want to, ironically, copy the file. Feeling like I might have those name files the wrong way round. Pong and Minecraft, how fun would that be? The fact that it says time up is a little worrying, but let's see what it says. I'm not bringing the set time back in from clock data, I don't think. Yeah, I'm not bringing the set time back in. Sound has gone mono sounding. Sounds like I'm at the bottom of the mine shaft. Well, I don't know why. Hello! Come and find me! So where we're getting this bit wrong now is when we do resume, I'm not putting the set time in. That should fix that problem. How does it sound for everybody else? Does it sound okay? Sounds normal for you, Flying Scotsman. Okay. So we built that, copy it and run it. We've got a clock called CDA. Oh, and the climb timer is apparently running. How did that happen? It's set to 0. Ah! Because whether it's running or not, Crops versus Zombies, where players defend crops from wave of zombies. I think Plants versus Zombies might have a problem with that. So let's have a look here. So the problem is that the start time, the set time, that kicks off the start time updater. Which runs the task timer. So it is running false. I need to say if clock data.get is running, then excuse me, apologies. So if we're running, we'll start the updater. If we're not running, we won't. And then start would get it going again. Yeah, okay, that's going to work a bit better. Now it's going to come back up as 0 again, but that's fine. Because it's already been wiped down to 0, I think. Or has it? Well, let's find out. I'm actually not sure what this is going to do. Because it's still got 18,000, 180,000 on the clock. The start time's still what it is. Yeah, I don't know what that's going to do. Right. I think I'm not setting the digits, that's the problem that I'm going to have. So if I do clock countdown set CDA to 0400, that works. So if I now disconnect, stop, time has been updated and we're not running, which means I can now start the server back up again. It's created CDA, that's good. What does CDA look like? Oh, interesting. Oh, of course it will be fine because that's how the blocks were left. So what happens if I now start that clock? Clock, countdown, start, CDA. Ha ha! stop. That's that. And then I'm going to disconnect. Stop that down. And then do a run copy, bring it back up again. And CDA has been started, which is good. Reconnect. Glowstone lanterns, yeah. Especially with one of the shader packs installed, that would look awesome. 350! So now if I clock, count, down, start CDA. Oh, reset it again. Okay, interesting. So that's a wee bug. Out of interest, does that how it works normally? Clocks, countdown, stop CDA. Ah, it always restarts it back to the beginning again. So I haven't got a pause at the moment. So that's fine. So it's actually behaving correctly. That's what it normally does. Okay, I'm fine with that. What happens now? So that's at 340 something. If I disconnect, stop the server in its running state. So the clock is currently running. It's at about 3:53. Let's get back onto the server. It should be less than that, but it should still be going. So it didn't actually kept where it was. Time, set, day, weather, clear. I am God, I will clear the weather up. Colon in between the numbers. Yes, there will be a colon in between the numbers. I figured of all the jobs we've got to do, putting a colon in is pretty low priority. So when we did a resume, we had start, we had that. Which is calculating it based on the start time. And it's set time minus diff. And that's all in there, and yet it wasn't running. Let's put the log spam back on this plugin and see whether that's working, and we'll also do info starting time updater. Ah, you can't. Okay. Bukkit dot. Okay. So resume is going to do that. That one. Initialize is going to set it to false. Boom! So initialize shouldn't be setting it to false. Because it's already being set up correctly. That's why it wasn't working. Don't need all the log spam. Right. It's very nice to spam notify us when you're on. Why? How much did it spam you? I think I had to restart the stream once, so it should say that it should have emailed you twice. I guess. Is twice spam now? Alright, let's shut that down. And we'll... No! That one, get the new code. Anytime. Right, so clock, countdown, set CDA 0400, and clock, countdown, start CDA. Right, so that's doing that. So at that point, I'm going to disconnect and stop the server. And we are running. So if I now leave it a little bit, because in theory the clock is still counting down because of the way it calculates it based on a difference from start time, so it's now fine, now minus that, which is constantly going on. If I run the game again, has been created. Let's see if it's ticking down. Hey look, see? And it carried on going. So that's good. So if the server stops and restarts, countdown timers continue on and they know exactly what they should be. So the countdown timer seems to be working, which is good. Why isn't stopwatch working? You big poopy head. Clock, stopwatch, SWA, 1, 2, 3. I see nothing. So what's stopwatch doing then? Because that's saying in the server, creating clock SWA. Stick to what we know. Creating clock SWA. It equals type stopwatch, so we go into there. Set the bottom left facing get the locations, all materials, and do a resume. Now what did start do here? I bet clock, stopwatch, start SWA. There you go. It's because when I start the stopwatch now, I'm not doing the bits that make it actually do anything. See, the countdown timer's still going. Stopwatch is going up. So, if that's the case, then in theory, I should be able to stop, run a copy of that. Is it me or is this getting slower? Timer around the countdown expired before we could get logged in, but never mind. I think we get away with that. So that's just a random number. And the stopwatch isn't working. Okay, fair enough. So, first thing that's wrong is that when we do... it only actually renders anything if start time updater is running. Whereas what I actually want to do is the same as the countdown timer, which actually does a run task. When you do a set, it does it once. So stopwatch, when I do a resume, oops, that's the problem. We're not doing anything, so I need to do that. So that will now create it, render it, run it once, and then work out whether it wants to do it. So now creating a stopwatch in the first place should work fine. Is this doing and it's running false as well? Yes, it is. Stop doing that. Time of day doing it by any chance? No. Good. Right, let's try that. That should be better now. Now we're not stopping it all the time. You got Minecraft server and a Raspberry Pi. Excellent. Really good Raspberry Pis. Very, very versatile bit of kit. I've got about 6 of them behind me somewhere. I like the little touch screen displays. They're very cool. Right, so we have stopwatch A and we have countdown A. Let's get connected. The clocks have come on all right. Could get back here a bit so I can actually see these clocks. Right, so let's do... Get out of the way. Clock, countdown, CDA sets 0500. Clock, countdown, set CDA 0500. Okay. Clock, stopwatch, start SWA. Right, they're good. And clock, countdown, start CDA. So both of those now ticking away. The tar command won't unpack a JDK. If you mean a jar file, then jar files you need zip to unpack them. Tar is not the same as zip. You need to use unzip to get a jar file open. They called it Magnum Pi. Right, so that's been ticking away for a bit. Let's see what the stopwatch and the countdown are doing. How do I get Minecraft on the PC? You can just download Spigot server and just run the jar file and it will set itself up. Actually installing a Spigot server on your machine is really easy. Stopwatch is going, and the countdown is going. Oh yeah! Right, so saving and reloading of this lot seems to be working. Let's just try another time of day clock, just for the sake of completeness. Put it this way round, and because Chris is desperate to see a glowstone clock, we'll make it glowstone. So the digits will be in glowstone. And I think obsidian is the background for the need a dark colour, so make obsidian for the background. Oh no, let's make it a nether clock and netherrack, and we'll put netherrack on the back as well. And this is our clock, time of day. TOD clock 1, 2, 3. So that's our time of day clock. Put it back to 7 o'clock. We still have countdown timer ticking away, stopwatch ticking away. All is looking good. Who introduced the file as a tar GZ? Well, you'll need more than just tar. Well, you need tar ZXVF. Is tar-ZXVF is the command line to extract a tar GZ file. I'll just paste that into the chat. That's the command line. You need to just typed it into the chat. So that's the netherrack clock and the and those 2 bits. So if I now disconnect, stop the server, let's have a look here, and we can see we've got CDA, SWA, and the time of day clock are all in there. If I now run that, clocks are in. Let's get reconnected. Do you need the latest Windows updates to be able to run Minecraft? No. No. Right, countdown timer is still going down. Stopwatch is still going up. Time of day is still time of daying. Woohoo! I would suggest if that doesn't work, then the file might be corrupt, Mr. Train Cow. Right, okay. So that's persistence. Pretty much working-ish. So that's not bad, actually. We didn't check to make sure that the stopwatch could be rebuilt correctly. So let's do do a clay clock. Oh, the countdown timer just finished. So if I do that one, that one, that one, in there, clock, stopwatch, SWB. Good. SWB now sets up correctly. Shame it intersects with that, but okay, they'll figure it out. Those clocks will just fight over the blocks. Get out of my way, tree. Right. So now if I clock, stopwatch, SWB, start. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. SWA is still going. I don't think it particularly likes these clocks being overlapped. I have a sneaky suspicion it's got a real problem with that. Let's try and set the clock up somewhere where it's not overlapped. He says setting the clock up somewhere it will be overlapped. Who introduced me to Minecraft? My daughter. Like all the best plans in the world. Right, let's put the stopwatch here. Clock. Stopwatch. SWB 123. That clock already exists. Oh, see how it rejected it? Hey, that works. We didn't test that before. That we know repeating the same clock works. Stopwatch. SWC. Right. So clock, stopwatch, start SWC. That's better. That's better. Good, 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 good. Let's do black followed by a backing colour of white, but nothing then behind it. And create a clock countdown CDB 123. Well, that didn't work. Try doing that again. Clock countdown CDC 123. Ooh, why is CDC not creating? Why are you not creating? Clock. Countdown set CDC 0400. Ah, okay. Clock. Countdown start CDC. That one's working. Not sure why it didn't come up though initially. Have to have a quick look at that. Chris, I introduced you to Minecraft. Yeah, really. Make it so you could say the same stopwatch in multiple locations. Ooh, interesting. That's not a bad idea. Having a separate instance of a clock. So if you give it the same name, it just takes on the values of that. Adam Gamer says your video drivers may be out of date. You've recently updated them all and installed the most recent version of Java. I kind of know what problem you're having there, but I must admit I can't remember because my wife had it and I can't remember how we fixed it in the end. Keep Googling. The answer is out there, as unhelpful as that is. Right. Okay. That's got persistence working. I think multiple stopwatches in the same location I'm going to come back to as another feature. I'll make a note of that. So that's the persistence command done. When a sign is destroyed, oh, this is a pain. This is a pain. You'd think that picking up when a sign was destroyed would be relatively straightforward, but it's not. It's an absolute pain. Let me clear up my notes. So Let me just close all of these. Check we're all. Yep, we've got no warnings back again. Good. So go back into here. So we've got event handlers in here. Let me just collapse some of these down so we can see woodfoot trees. Just a quick look at the countdown. Countdown needs to do the same thing that that's why it didn't generate the countdown timer. Right, let's fix that problem. Right, now back to what I was going to do. So we've got event handlers like on sign change. On sign change is great for when you make a sign, but you don't get an on sign change when you delete it. You'd think that was kind of a fundamental change, but you don't get one. So we need to look at various ways of understanding whether blocks have gone away. And there is no single one of these for signs. So in exploring Tinterweb, I've found a number of things that need to be looked at. So the one that we really want to start off with is on block break. Block break event. So this happens anytime any block on the server gets broken, which is a pain. I would much rather it was a little bit more discerning than that, but it isn't. So I'm just going to, for the time being, just log block break event.get block.get type .toString. So that will, whenever you break a block now, that should do that. Let's just prove that works. Right. Fine now. Bring the server up. I'm going to shut Notepad down for the time being. Got a bunch of clocks in the config file now. Right, so these are all of our clocks and things. So what I wanted to do is to look at when you just delete a block. So if I get rid of that, it says block break long grass, block break grass. And if I get rid of this one, block break ball sign. So that's cool. I now know when I broke a sign. However, here's an exception to that rule. Place some TNT here and set it going. Look, not one single thing happened in the log file, despite the fact that it blew the hell out of a load of blocks. Surely they were broken. No. What happens when you do that is you get a different kind of event. Obviously. So they also need to cope with on explode. Entity explode event. And in one of these, we basically get given a list of all the blocks. So let's make a copy of them. And then fill in the imports. As such, and then we can iterate through it. An explosion, and we'll log out what type it was. b.getType. So let's see what that does. Now hopefully we'll get told what actually was going on there. See you later, Chris. Easily confused arrives just as the TNT comes out. Right, so if we now run that, the trick is we need to think about all the different ways that TNT, that a sign can disappear from the world, because otherwise we get out of sync. Clocks will exist and the sign won't exist with it. So let me get logged back in again. Anytime, thank you. So if I come back over here, in fact let's use this one as our guinea pig this time. So now let's put here TNT down and light it. Whoa, look at what happened in the log file here. Loads of it came up. This is all the stuff that got destroyed. And somewhere down here is a wall sign. So we got a notification of our wall sign. What we can do with all of these things is whenever we find a sign that's being destroyed, which will either be known as a signpost or a wall sign, we can say, hey Dave, good to see you. What we can do is we can check it against our list of coordinates, which are all referred to the sign, and if there is a sign at one of the coordinates that we have got noted down for our clocks, we know it's one of our signs, and we can then go and tell that clock to switch itself off. World edit. Yeah, I think if you get things like world edit, it's a separate thing. Enderman, yeah, I have no idea what you would do with that. I don't know whether that's classed as an on-block break event or something, but we shall see. I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. So yeah, that's sort of destroyed that. So that's fixed that problem. Let's come back over here. That clock over there is still working. Excellent. So now let's place another sign, because there's another thing that we've got here. So if I place a sign on here, it doesn't matter what it is, and I delete that block, not that one, this one, you'll notice it said grass down here, but it did not say sign. So I got no notification that that sign got destroyed, even though it got destroyed. So block break only accounts for the thing you actually break and not any of the things that are attached to that, like signs. So we now need to get a little bit more creative, and whenever a block is broken we need to see if there was a sign anywhere near it. This is where, given how often this is going to happen, it's starting to get a little bit painful, but boolean check block B for block face B F in block face dot values. So they iterate through each of the possible block face values, so north, west, east, south. If b dot get relative f dot get type is material dot wall sign, no sign. So if on the face we're looking at it's a wall sign, or bit of thunder going on in the background there, or it's a signpost, then get logger dot info block destroyed indirectly, and this is going to be b dot get type. No, when we're talking about it's return true. And then here we'll return false. Nice, easily. The orange truck, yeah, very good, Dave. Right, so that's done check. Now what we need to do is call that. Now whenever we get an on-block break, I need to check everything around it. So if check B event.getBlock, Then I also need to say get logger.info had a sign attached. So I can now rebuild that. Yeah, I know, Dave. It started out okay, and it's sort of generally very, very, very slowly drifting out of sync. I've got no idea why. We tried resetting the camera, and that made no difference at all. Right, so let's stop that. Take the new plug-in. Wait till we get connection. So now, if I start off with a known working, and that's put a sign in and delete it, it comes up as a signpost. Put one on there, and delete that, it now says had a sign attached. Put one on the top, and delete that one, and said had a sign attached. Excellent. That's alright then. So that's indirectly destroying the block, blowing it up with TNT. I think that's the majority of the cases, so I need to try and work out what the coordinate is of each of these 6 systems, relate it to the clock, and then deal with it. Let's disconnect from there and stop that. So we get a block destroyed by an explosion if b.getType is material.wall sign, or b.getType is material.signPost. Then handle sign destroyed b.get location, I think is probably the way to do it. And if it's block break, I need to say the same. Handle sign destroyed b.get location. This needs to know where the location of the actual sign was, though. So what check needs to do is actually return location, which is b.get relative f.get location, and then here return null, because that's yucky. And then if check event block not equal null, hello, try that. Better. Then handle sign destroyed and do location result equals check event.get block. If result not equal null, handle is destroyed result. Right. That means we now, in all of these different cases, now get to a private function, void handle sign destroyed location. That's the key to everything. Monolith Tech, a sign-based clock. Yes, it certainly is. It's a countdown, a stopwatch, and a time of day clock. Locaton. Do I like cats? Yes, yes I do, Dave. I like all pets, to be honest, but cats and dogs particularly. Right, so if the sign is destroyed, we find the location. I now need to do for string clock ID in clocks.keyset. I clock. I what? No, don't want that. Clock in is clocks dot get clock ID clock data is clock dot get clock data if location dot equals clock data dot location, then no dot get location get logger dot info. It's one of ours, buddy. Return, and then otherwise get logger dot info, not one of ours. Right. Here I can also print just to validate that it got the right one. Clock data dot get ID. Like that. Right, let's give that a try and see if it's picking it up correctly. Now main has got a compile error because it's event.get block, not that rubbish. It's better. Now we're compiling. Good evening, Kevrev. TS, hopefully later this week. I'm just waiting for the new machine to arrive. Nice one, Dave. Okie doke. Right, so let's give that a try and see what that does or does not do. Water washing, oh, are Enderman stealing the block? Yeah, I've got no idea what to do about Enderman stealing the block. I'm not quite sure how to encourage that to be reproduced, but water washing it away. Will water wash away a sign? We'll try it. I'll drop some water near it, see what happens. Server's up. Sounds like Surf's up, but it's a lot less cool. Right, so weather set, weather clear, time set day, no. Right, so I'm going to create a clock. Todd, no, clock. Todd 555666. We have a time of day clock. So let us now delete that clock. It's one of ours, 555. So that worked. Good. So let's do the same thing here. And put clock Todd AAABBB. We've got a clock, we do. So now I'm going to delete that square. It's AAA, so that worked as well. So indirect blocks worked. So let's try blowing the hell out of the clock and see what happens then. Keep yourself calm, John. No, it will gnaw. What do you mean, Haddock? Clock. Todd. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Kevrev, all the Steam keys are out. So if you're still missing, have a look in your Twitch. There should be one that says inbox, outbox, other. Try looking in inbox and other. Right. So now I'm going to place some TNT there, and I'm going to. Have we got a time of day clock, by the way? We do. Light it. There you go. It's one of ours. Boom! So the clock properly got deleted away. Oh, you cannot wash away signs. Yeah, that's what I thought. Right, so now, if we destroy it through direct, indirect, if we... if I do another one where I have it standing on top. So let's do it there, 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 and there. And if I put... Actually, if I do that one, and... that one, and I put it there. I don't know if this is going to work actually, I hadn't thought about this. Depends which way we're facing, so let me put that sign directly in the right direction. Directly in the right direction, superb. I can do English good. Clock, Todd, blah, 1, 2, 3. Do we have a clock? We have something. Seems a bit clocky. Excellent. Now if I delete the block underneath. Yep, blah disappeared. Right, so all I need to do now is write the code to actually delete the clock. All the detection seems to be working. ICANN has English lesson, yeah, absolutely. Right, I think I'll get rid of some of the log spam as well, so you don't need all this blog break event rubbish. And where's explode? Already cleaned that up. That's okay. On block break is okay. This is, I don't need to say if it's not one of ours. If it is one of ours, that is when I need to do a clock.clear to get rid of it. I need to stop the clock so they stop scheduling it. Clear it so that it gets rid of it off the world, although I need to re-implement clear. And I need to then get rid of it out of the map. So clocks.remove clock ID, and I need to do a bundle data and a save config. Bundle config and a save config. Fair enough. Sign for clock. Destroyed, removed clock. Right, that'll lock that back in there. I think I'm also going to... I don't have access to the player here. No, we'll leave it as it is. I need to plug in and try and craft a transfer to lolcats or better Yoda speak. Yodaspeak.co.uk. Oh, we could have some great fun with that. Yes, yodaspeak.co.uk. Oh, we could have some fantastic fun with that. Snow with the 375. That sounds good going to be gone. Make sure you've suggested it in the usual way. So this should all work except for the fact that the clear method doesn't actually do anything at the moment. Let's fix the clear method. Is that in the abstract? No, it isn't. It's in each of these. Oh, it's in timeupdater.clear. That's. And is that in renderer? Yep, timerenderer.clear. So in render base, I do all this stuff. Clear really needs to do exactly the same thing as render base, except that it needs to set all the materials to air. Ah, see? Now that makes life a lot easier. So in order to do that, I need to know which direction it's facing. Block facing, and then I just do render base XYZ air. Render base XYZ block data dot air facing. I don't need any of that rubbish. There you go. Boom. It's not block facing, you twit. It's block face. Right. That's good. Now we've broken something because time updater doesn't pass that into clear, but it does have it, so that's good news. It means I can just pass it in. That should make clear work. Ooh, let's see what works. I feel like I need a clock delete function as well, actually, on the command, so we're going to do that next. Good. Run. So now if I make a clock, then delete the sign, the whole clock should disappear, and it should also disappear from the save file. So let's get the save file loaded so that we can see where it's at. It's a big old save file, so I need to clean that up. And we'll go into here. So let's come out somewhere a bit different. This will do. And we'll place a time of day called TD123, and we have a time of day clock that looks really quite odd. Oh, because there's another clock sitting in there fighting with it. That's bizarre. If I now delete that... Oh, look at that! Clock gone. Clock gone! Let's move further away so that we're away from whatever is nonsense and going strange. And we'll do our clock facing this way. Green, purple, white. Put that in there. Clock, Todd, TOD 1, 2, 3, 4. Clock. That looks a bit healthier. And then I'm going to delete that. Boom! All gone. Excellent. Now, the other thing I need to check is what's going on with the config file. See, Todd1234 and Todd123 are still there. Bad save config file. Bad save config file. Right, why is that not working? So, save all of these. When I delete something, I want you to actually delete it. Where's the outliner gone? I want handle sign destroyed. Stops the clock, clears the clock, removes it from clocks. Bundle, save. Oh, I wonder if iterating through the loop has locked the loop and won't let me do it, so that you don't get an enumeration, a concurrent modification exception. Previously in Java, it would let you just go ahead and modify the thing you're iterating over, and then throw an error if you tried to do something wrong. Maybe they're stopping you even doing it now. Okay. So this will go through and delete it, and then at the end, I'm just going to say clocks. There should only be one of them, that's fine. So string clock ID to remove clock ID is null. To remove clock ID equals clock ID get it out of the loop. I don't see why that wouldn't work. Alright, let's run it. So that's the config. Tell you what, let's simplify this config a bit by deleting it. And run the server. Log in. Right, so we have nothing in the config file at the moment. So I'm going to make a clock. I'm going to put the sign on it. Clock, time of day, 123, 123. Go. We have a clock, it works, and it's been persisted to the file. I'm now going to delete that. The clock is now gone, but it's still in the file. Ah! So removing data clearly needs to be thought about somewhat specially with this bundle config stuff. That's what I think might be happening here, because I'm just doing a this.getConfig.set. I'm never actually clearing anything on this.getConfig. So what I need to do is reset this.getConfig. Is there a just reset yourself? What it's doing, Haddock, is I can't do what you suggested, because then if the server crashes, you lose it. So anytime you make a save, anytime you make a change, it will persist it back to the file. Now that works normally, but what's happening is because I've got nothing. In order to save to their config system, you don't have actual direct file access. In order to save to their config system, you go through an intermediary step. And what's happening is that I'm adding things to the intermediary step. I'm never deleting anything from it and resetting it. So therefore, I can only add and change. I can't ever remove. So I need to find out how I get rid of stuff. I wonder if there's a remove all or something. Set it. No, the only thing I can do is do this the hard way. Let's go to unbundle config. This is a pain. Don't like this at all. I think we just had a host. Rubku, thank you for the host. So in there, I now want to do a this.getConfig. How do you get rid of something? Interesting. Get configuration section clock. Oh, I already have that. Clock dot. Oh, clocks dot. And that's this thing. So there's lots of gets. I get that. Lots of is. And I can set it. Now if I set it to null, will that get it? If the value is null, the entry is removed. Excellent. So in here, I now want to do this. Get config. Got a lot of minecart journeys tomorrow. Excellent. Hi Rubku. Hopefully we're streaming again shortly, properly. Woohoo! And we want to set clock dot plus clock ID to null. So go through all the clocks and wipe them, and then go through the clocks and put the ones I want on. That should persist the file correctly. That's rubbish. Right. I suspect I might be just doing it wrong, but it works, so let's just blast that file again and let the latest version up. So weather clear, weather claw, time set day. Right, let's put a sign on here. Clock Todd FFFDTG. We have a clock. It's awesome. We also have nothing at all in the config file. I've broken it totally. That's gone. And that's in there. Ah! Dang it. Clock says null, return. You twit. Means it will never save the first thing. What I should do is only if it's set, do something. Otherwise, carry on and do stuff. What twonk. Built. Still empty. Let's run the server. Anytime. Thank you. Right, we have our handy config here still. Clock, Todd, GGGHHH. We have a clock. We have a config file. Clock is gone. Clock is gone. I don't mind that that's an empty array, that's absolutely fine. So it should mean that now if I escape and stop and reload the server, then nothing is here and all is fine. Put the clock on. Clock 1. So the clock is there and ticking away. It's persisted it. So if I come out, slightly too quick on the login there. And it should all be in and working. It says it's created the clock, it's just waiting for me to get logged in. There's the clock in and working. The file, it's still in there, and I should be able to delete it if I delete this one. Clock has gone, and the file has gone away. Excellent. Right, okay, so that's good. Now what I did say is I wanted a command to do that as well. That way, so I want to list the clocks, and I want to be able to delete a clock. So back in our main.java we have a process clock command. So I've got stopwatch, countdown, list, not yet implemented. Well, we can do that now. In fact, delete is here as well. Look at this. I already realised I wanted to do these things. Hey there, Kevin Hopkinson. So list is going to be a relatively simple for string clock ID in clock.keyset. It's going to be sender.send message chat color.green clock, chat color, like yellow, just, you know, to completely confuse everybody. Plus clock ID plus chat color dot green, and I'm going to say it's clocks dot get clock ID dot get clock data dot get clock type. Why is numlock not working all of a sudden? So that will iterate through each of the clocks and then delete if clock stop contains key args 1 if args dot length is less than 1, 2 return true, send message chat color dot red usage slash clock delete clock ID. Otherwise, if it contains the key, then I want to handle sign destroyed clocks dot get clock ID args 1 dot get clock data dot get location. That way I'm still using the same thing for handling the destruction of the clock, and here I can say clock removed. Otherwise, clock args 1 not found. Right, so that will try and remove those. That will try and do a list. Now I also want to do a bukkit.get logger.info clock args 1 removed by sender.get name. That will log the player. That way we have a server log of this. Right, let's see if list and delete work. A what? A what, Dave? I don't know what you mean. Log in. Oh dear. I think I might call it in a minute. Get this one working. I've only really got one major job to do before we've got it ready to go onto the server, and that's to get the permission support in. So let's clock TOD TOD clock 1 thread. So that's made a clock, persisted it, slash clock list. There you go. Todd clock 1 is a Todd clock. There you go. Clock Night Ninja Joker. Delete. Actually, let's step back so we can see it. Clock delete Todd clock 1. Boom! Superb. Right, and hopefully it's gone from there as well. Good, so we can delete clocks, we can add clocks, we can get rid of clocks by getting rid of the sign that they are attached to. We can do all sorts of things. So the next thing that I need to do, and I'm not doing it tonight because it's 11 o'clock and I don't like coding when I'm tired, is permissions. So when you create a clock, that fourth parameter that we haven't used on the sign is who can update this sign. And I need to integrate that. Now I'm going to integrate that with something called Vault, which is a general purpose way of talking to permissions plugins. So I'm going to do that tomorrow, maybe tomorrow night after the Down the Mineshaft stream, because I need to set Vault up on here. I haven't got Vault or Group Manager on here yet. So having created a clock, I can say who can modify it, and then if you're in a particular group that's been specified, then you'll be able to modify it. So I can create a clock that someone else can then do stuff with. I think that is all I need to know. Yep, that'll do for this evening actually. That's been really good. Alright then folks, thanks very much for joining me. I hope that's been of interest to you as well. And I will catch you tomorrow down the mineshaft 7:30, and possibly another coding stream after then to get that group manager stuff done. Who knows? Maybe Thursday will be a Train Sim live stream. Fingers crossed. Either way, I will let you know. Thursday might be pushing it because if it only arrives on Thursday, I'll be setting it up and installing Steam and everything on Thursday night. But I will keep you informed and let you know how it goes. Alright then folks, thanks very much again, and I will see you tomorrow at 7:30 for Down the Mineshaft. Bye bye.